Imagine being a parent in 1692. You wake up one morning and your 9-year-old daughter is on the floor of your kitchen, her body twisting into shapes it shouldn't make, screaming about invisible hands pinching her, biting her, choking her. You call the village doctor. He examines her for hours. He has no answer for you. He writes 3 words in his journal: the evil hand. Within 9 months, 25 of your neighbors will be dead. 5 in prison cells, 19 on the gallows, 1 pressed to death under a pile of stones. Hundreds more, your friends, your family, accused of witchcraft. But none of it was witchcraft. 332 years later, scientists finally know what actually happened in Salem that winter. And it wasn't one thing. It was 3 things, all happening at once, in one village, in the worst winter in Massachusetts history. Reverend Samuel Parris was not a popular man. He had been the minister of Salem Village for less than 3 years, and half the village refused to pay him. In his household lived his daughter, Betty, age 9, his niece, Abigail, age 11, and a Caribbean slave named Tituba. In the cold winter of 1692, Betty stopped eating. She started having fits. Her eyes rolled back. Her mouth foamed. The doctor, William Griggs, had practiced medicine for 30 years. No fever, no infection, no injury. But this was 1692, and there was only one diagnosis a doctor could write for a child no medicine could cure. Within days, Abigail joins her, then another girl, then another. By February, 6 children are convulsing in Salem Village, all teenagers, all connected to the Parris household. They cannot speak coherently. They scream that invisible figures are biting them, pinching them, choking them. In the 17th century, there is only one explanation for this. Someone is bewitching them. Tituba is asked to bake a witch cake, rye flour and the girl's urine, fed to a dog. The dog convulses. 3 names come out of the questioning that follows: Tituba herself, Sarah Good, a homeless beggar, Sarah Osborne, an old woman who hadn't been to church in a year. On February 29th, the warrants are signed. The Salem witch trials have begun. The accusations don't stop with the first 3. They spread, like an infection. By March, the accusers are pointing at church members, respected farmers, the wives of merchants. Even a 4-year-old child, Dorothy Good, is arrested, chained inside a Boston prison cell. In May, the royal governor establishes a special court to handle the cases. It accepts something no court before or after has ever accepted as legal evidence: spectral evidence. You cannot defend against a spirit you cannot see. On June 10th, Bridget Bishop is hanged at a place that will become known as Gallows Hill. She is the first of 19. Through the summer, the executions continue. Farmers, ministers, a 71-year-old grandmother. An 80-year-old man named Giles Corey refuses to plead either guilty or innocent. Under English law, he cannot be tried until he pleads. He cannot be tried, but he can be pressed. They lay him on the ground. They place a wooden board on his chest. They begin piling stones onto the board. His last words, recorded by witnesses, are 2: more weight. He dies after 2 days. By October, more than 200 people have been accused. 25 are already dead. On October 12th, the accusations reach the one person they shouldn't have: the wife of Governor William Phipps. The governor dissolves the court that same month. The accusations stop. The convulsions stop. Within weeks, the village is quiet. For more than 2 centuries, this was the story. A village descended into madness. 25 people died for nothing. But no one could explain what made those first children convulse, what they were really seeing, why it spread. In 1976, a graduate student at the University of California reads a description of Betty Parris's symptoms, and she recognizes them. Linda Caparel was studying behavioral psychology, not history, but she had grown up on a farm. The symptoms the Salem accusers described, convulsions, vomiting, the sensation of being burned or pinched, vivid hallucinations, matched something she had read about in the textbook: ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus. Its scientific name is Claviceps purpurea. It grows on rye when the climate is cold and wet. When humans eat infected rye, the chemicals in the fungus behave almost identically to LSD. Caporael had one piece of evidence to test her theory: the weather records for 1691. The winter before the trials was the coldest, wettest winter on record in Massachusetts. Perfect conditions for ergot. The rye harvest of that year, eaten throughout the following winter, would have been heavily infected. And what ergot does to children is specific: convulsions, burning skin, vivid waking hallucinations. Exactly what the children of Salem described. When Caporael published her theory in Science magazine, the historical community was electrified. But not everyone was convinced. Because ergot alone doesn't explain everything. If the rye was poisoned, why did the cases cluster in certain households? Why did they stop the moment the governor dissolved the court? Modern researchers now believe Salem was not one phenomenon. It was three, happening in the same room at the same time. First, the ergot, the biological trigger, the thing that made the first children genuinely, physically ill. Second, mass psychogenic illness. When one person in a tight community develops dramatic physical illness, others can unconsciously develop it too. The brain is not pretending. The illness is real. The trigger is social. Modern medicine has documented hundreds of these outbreaks: schools, factories, small towns. In 1962, in Tanganyika, a laughter epidemic shut down 14 schools. In 2011, in a town in upstate New York, 18 teenage girls developed Tourette-like symptoms over a single semester. When investigators looked closely, they found something almost every outbreak shared: the third factor, trauma. In 1692, Salem Village was filled with refugees from a war few of us remember: King William's War, a frontier conflict between English settlers and indigenous nations allied with French Canada. Many of the afflicted were not originally from Salem. Mercy Lewis had watched her family murdered in a raid on Casco Bay. Susanna Sheldon's brothers were killed in front of her. Mary Walcott had lost relatives in the same fighting. These were not hysterical children. They were trauma survivors. And then they were told, by every adult around them, that the woods just beyond the village were full of demons, that the devil walked among them. For them, the fear was already real. The ergot lit the fire. The trauma fed it. The community spread it. Three forces, in one place, in one winter, and 25 people died. Mass psychogenic illness has not stopped. In 1999, in a Belgian school, children began collapsing after drinking Coca-Cola. No contamination was ever found in the bottles. In 2012, in Sri Lanka, more than 1,000 children at a single school complex required hospitalization over 3 days for symptoms with no biological cause. In every case, the illness is real. The medical bills are real. The fear is real. What is not real is the cause people assign to it. In 1692, the assigned cause was witchcraft. In 1983 California, it was satanic ritual abuse. In 2011 New York, it was a chemical spill that never existed. The trigger changes with the times. The mechanism does not. When a community is under stress, economic, religious, post-traumatic, and a credible authority offers an explanation that matches the fear, the affliction spreads, whether or not the explanation is true. In 2017, the town of Salem formally apologized for the trials. 325 years late. But the apology is the easy part. The harder thing is what Salem actually shows us: that ordinary people in ordinary towns, under enough pressure, can convince themselves of almost anything, and then act on it. 25 people died because a community could not separate what their eyes were seeing from what their fear was building. We know now what their eyes were seeing was a fungus. What their fear was building, we are still trying to understand. Betty Parris, the girl who first collapsed in her father's kitchen, lived until 77. She married, she had 5 children. She never spoke publicly about Salem, not once. Maybe she understood something her village did not, that the danger was never out in the woods. It was never coming for them through spectral hands or invisible bites. It was always inside the room with them. It was the fear itself. And we live in a world full of it, and so are we.